Theodore.
There's another story coming right up, and you can always learn more about Theodore Tugboat on the internet. Find us through PBS Online.
Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Oda, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
Hello. The Tugboats have invited me to join them for storytelling time tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Now, it gets kind of dark down along the docks at night, so I think I'll take my super light with me. It's right here. There it is. Look at that. Isn't that the greatest thing you've ever seen? I can hardly wait to show it to the tugboats. Oh, what do you know about that? My super light doesn't seem to have any light. It's not working, you know. And the tugboats are waiting for me so they can begin storytelling time. You know, there is a story we could tell. It's about the time that Theodore was expecting to do something, and something very different happened.
The evening sun was setting on a very special day in the big harbor. The Queen Stephanie, the grandest ocean liner in all the world, was leaving.
And I'd like you to meet our friend Bedford Bowie, smiled Theodore. Hello, Bedford, said the Queen. Hello, Your Majesty, said Bedford.
The tugs were introducing the Queen to all their special friends as she moved out of the harbor.
Tugboats, prepare for departure,
announced Foduck. The Queen had been visiting the harbor, but now was the time the Queen had to leave. The tugboats all got in their places.
Present whistles.
3 toots will do, Hank.
I really enjoyed my visit to the big harbor, said the Queen. Thank you all very much indeed for your help. You were splendid.
Splendid, repeated Theodore, smiling at Hank. Even the Queen's words seemed special.
Where will you go next, Your Majesty?
Said George.
Hawkwalk Harbor, replied the Queen. I understand they're famous for their cheese.
Cheese, repeated Hank, enchanted. The Queen was going on a tour of nearby harbors. She would be coming back to the big harbor before she sailed for her home across the ocean.
I shall see you all again soon,
called the Queen. And then, with a deep blast of her mighty horn, she bid a final
farewell.
The tugboats floated there a long time in the warm summer night, watching the Queen Stephanie sail away into the distance. The sight of her seemed to catch them in a magical spell.
She's the greatest, said Theodore quietly.
The grandest, agreed Emily.
The best and the brightest, declared Foduck. The biggest,
blared George.
She's splendid,
shouted Hank. The tugboats all let out their breaths softly. Seeing the Queen disappear over the edge of the ocean was just like seeing the second setting of the sun that day. It seemed like forever, but the day of the Queen Stephanie's return finally arrived. As the tugboats sailed out to meet Her Majesty, they all seemed to have a little extra pep in their propellers. When they arrived at the harbor entrance, there was no sign of the Queen.
We should be able to see her by now, said Emily.
I hope nothing's happened,
frowned Foduck.
I can't wait to see the Queen again, said Theodore.
I hope she brought cheese, shouted Hank.
Someone's coming,
called George.
Oh, it's only Constance.
The tugs all craned around Constance, the Coast Guard ship, trying to see if the Queen was coming.
What are you all doing out here?
Said Constance, sounding very surprised.
We're waiting for the Queen Stephanie,
Theodore explained. Oh, I heard she's late, said Constance. She may not arrive until tomorrow. Well, all the air seemed to go out of the tugs, like a leaky bumper.
Let's move along, said Foduck. Nothing to see here.
The other tugs floated back to the harbor. But Theodore and Hank kept staring out towards the ocean as if they were still expecting the Queen Stephanie to appear. Constance was about to go too, but she could see how upset the two smallest tugs were, and she had an idea. "I know I'm not the Queen," she began, "but maybe we could do something fun together." "We?" repeated Theodore. "I mean, you and me? I mean, we?" "Fun?" added Hank. Theodore and Hank were surprised. You see, they thought Constance was very serious and just did her job. She never did anything with anyone. At least, certainly not tugboats. "Maybe you have other things you'd rather do," Constance said quickly, and turned once more to go. Something in the way Constance said that made Theodore think that maybe Constance really did want to do something with them. "Maybe it would be fun to do something together," Theodore called to Constance. "It would?" repeated Hank. Theodore nudged Hank. Constance turned once more to the tugs. "Oh, well, fine," she said slowly. And then she was quiet again, as if she didn't really know what to say next. Should we go?" suggested Theodore. "Yes, good idea," replied Constance. "We should go." Theodore and Hank headed after Constance. "It won't be like the Queen," Hank said quietly. "Constance isn't grand and great and splendid." Well, Theodore didn't say anything, but inside, he was thinking the same thing. Theodore and Hank followed Constance quietly along the coast. "If you ever come out here at night," warned Constance, still trying to think of something to say, "always tell someone where you're going, in case you get lost and I have to look for you." "We know that," Theodore said. It sure wasn't much fun being with Constance so far. "How can you see anything out here?" Hank wanted to know. "With this." Constance turned on her powerful Coast Guard searchlight. "I bet you can see all the way across the ocean with that," said Hank. "Can you shine it out there?" "Hank, it's not a toy," replied Constance. "If a ship were to see this light shining at them, they might think I wanted them to stop so I could search them." The tugs didn't say anything, but they both felt like going home. And Constance could feel it too. "But maybe," she added in a gentler voice, "I could shine my light on you." "You mean you want to search us?" Hank said nervously. "No," Constance chuckled. "When I was smaller, I used to practice using my searchlight by playing searchlight tag." "Searchlight tag?" repeated Theodore, getting interested. "How do you do that?" "We'll pretend that big rock over there is home dock," explained Constance. "You both have to get there before I shine my light on you." "That might be fun," said Theodore. Well, Hank was already beginning to have fun. "I'll count to 10, and you start floating," she called. Constance turned to face the shore. Theodore and Hank hurried off, smiling delicious smiles as Constance started counting. 1, 2, 3. Theodore and Hank turned off their engines. They were as quiet as catfish. "Ready or not," she called again. "Here I come." Constance shined her light here and there, but the crafty tugboats were nowhere to be found. "Now!" cried Theodore. The tugs quickly turned on their engines again and made a race for the rock. Constance swung her big light around, but the tugs made it. "Home free!" they shouted. "Good job!" called Constance. "You know, Constance really is kind of fun," Hank said to Theodore. And Theodore was thinking the same thing. "It's time for me to go back to my dock now," said Constance, floating up. Theodore had another idea. "Would you like to come back with us to our dock for storytelling time?" he said. "Good idea, Theodore," whispered Hank. "Well, yes," said Constance. "Yes, I think I would like that." Back at the Great Ocean dock, the tugs saw Theodore and Hank floating towards them with Constance.
"Did we do something wrong?"
said George. Constance is going to tell stories with us, said Theodore. The other tugs were very surprised. No one ever did anything with Constance.
Everyone made room for the bigger ship. It was a tight squeeze.
Sorry,
Said Constance, bumping a little as she found a place.
at first, no one said anything.
Felt strange having a Coast Guard ship at storytelling time.
Constance tagged us with her searchlight, Hank said suddenly. You? Repeated Emily, surprised. And Constance? It was a lot of fun, Theodore spoke up. Tell them about it, Constance, said Hank. That's what we do at storytelling time.
I have an even better story, said Constance, about the time I captured a pirate ship. Oh, that sounds very interesting, said Fodak.
Yes, tell us that one, said Emily. The tugs all moved very close to listen, and Constance cleared her throat.
It was a dark and stormy night, she began.
Just then, the dispatcher turned to them.
I have just received word, he announced, that the Queen Stephanie is finally arriving.
Theodore and Hank realized that they were having so much fun with Constance, they'd forgotten all about the Queen. You may all go out and welcome her if you'd like, added the dispatcher. Everyone set off right away, their engines pounding with excitement. Almost everyone. Aren't you coming too? Theodore called to Constance. You really don't need me out there, Constance replied. No, we don't need you, said Theodore, but we'd really like you to come.
Yes,
Agreed George. Of course, smiled Emily. With us, added Hank.
there's always safety in numbers,
Said Fodak. The tugboats headed out to welcome the Queen. They could see Her Majesty's lights blazing gloriously in the night. Constance shined her searchlight at the sky so the great ship would see them coming. When the Queen arrived at the entrance to the harbor, Theodore floated forward. Would you like to meet another special friend of ours? He said. The tugs moved aside to let Constance float forward. Hello, said the Queen. Hello, said Constance very quietly. This is Constance, smiled Theodore. She's our Coast Guard ship.
Constance was telling us about a pirate ship, said Hank.
Oh, I'd like to hear about that too, said the Queen. Constance began to tell her story, and everyone gathered round to listen. Somehow, Theodore didn't know exactly why, but just then, it seemed that that night everyone would have wonderful stories to tell. Yes, something special always happens when the Queen comes to visit. And right now, I'm supposed to be visiting the tugs, but, well, I won't be able to see anything with this super light. I know what I can do. I can use my trusty pocket flashlight instead. Thanks for visiting us here in the big harbor, and we'll see you all again next time. Works perfectly. I mean, it may not be splendid, but it's still pretty great. So long.